Forget worms. Would you still love me if I was half hedgehog? The Brothers Grimm adapted an iconic entry in fairy tales that explores the themes, what if you gave birth to a little animal guy? And what if you had to marry a little animal guy? And what if your little animal guy was kind of a dick? This is Hans, my hedgehog.
Fucked up fairy tales with Liz.
Ding! Once upon a time, there was a farmer who had almost everything he could ever want in life, but for one thing. If you have never read more than 3 fairy tales in your life, you might be wondering, what could he possibly want? But if you have read more than 3 fairy tales, and especially if you've watched the hundreds of fairy tales I have produced here, you already said he wants a child, and you said it before I even began this run-on sentence. I don't know how many more ways I can joke about the overabundance of sad childless parents in fairy tales, but I will do my best, because they're not going away anytime soon. This is how the farmer dealt with his disappointment. I want to have a child so badly. I don't care if it's a damn hedgehog. Upsides and downsides to this illogical statement. Hedgehogs are a favorite exotic pet. They are quite cute, but they are prickly. So woe betide the farmer's wife who, 9 months later, gave birth to a baby who was a human on the bottom and a hedgehog on the top. Well, it is a fucking war scene between my legs. You want to tell me one more time why you wished for a hedgehog of all animals? I was just trying to make a point. I didn't think the universe would take me literally. Well, I guess, we better get him baptized. I don't even know what to name this kid. Hans? Hans? My hedgehog? Really, lady? You couldn't think of a single name for your hedgehog baby that wasn't Germany's most common name plus hedgehog? I'm not having kids, but I have a surplus of names that will never be used. They should pair up creative non-mothers who like to name things, like me, with stunned mothers of animal-human hybrid babies, so that poor Hans could have been, I don't know, Elijah or Nathaniel or Rowan or one of the other dozen beautiful boys' names I have used for stuffed animals instead of babies. The parents were perplexed on how to take care of such a spiny little baby. Mom wouldn't nurse him, for obvious reasons. They were afraid he'd tear up the linens if they gave him a proper bed, so they lay out a bunch of straw behind the stove, and they left Hans my hedgehog there for the next 8 years. Every day the farmer hoped that the son he'd so thoughtlessly wished for would go ahead and die already, so he wouldn't have to deal with him. Simply put, there was no hope that this kid would grow up kind or well-adjusted. One day, sometime after those 8 years, the fair came to town, so the farmer asked his wife and the maid what he should pick up, and then he remembered he had a son behind the stove. Can I get you anything from the fair, hedgehog?
I would like a set of bagpipes, Father.
Bagpipes? You think I'm gonna put up with you playing hot cross buns on the bagpipes every fucking night? How the hell do you think you're gonna play them? You're gonna puncture the bag, you ugly pincushion!
Father, if you get me the bagpipes, I'll soon be out of your hair.
All right, I'll get you the bagpipes. So the farmer brought home a set of bagpipes for Hans, who, upon receiving them, had another request.
Father, please have the blacksmith shoe my rooster. Once that is done, I can ride away and never come back.
Shoe the rooster? Who the hell puts shoes on a fucking rooster? You are the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Did you hear the part where I said I'd go away forever when it's done?
Blacksmith, I'm gonna need you to shoe that rooster. So the rooster was shod, and Hans picked up his little bagpipes and rode off into the forest, taking some donkeys and pigs with him, so he could set up his own farm on his own piece of land. And he did quite well for himself. His livestock grew, and with some time on his own to find himself, he became an accomplished musician. Honestly, I'm super happy for him. What could he, an adorable and skilled hedgehog man, possibly do to make me dislike him? A king got lost in the forest and rode by Hans's farm. He heard the bagpipes and was very intrigued. Servant, do you see who's playing that beautiful bagpipe music? I do. The bagpipe player is a hedgehog with human legs, perched on a rooster, sitting in a tree. What a goddamn delight.
Hello, Your Highness. Are you lost? Most people don't find themselves as far out in the forest as my farm.
I have no idea how to get home, but I'm kind of glad it happened because I'm not gonna lie, your whole deal is a treat and a half.
I'd be happy to help. Though in exchange for my directions I would ask for something in return. You are such a mighty king, and I am such a half-hedgehog.
Name it.
I want you to promise me, in writing, the first thing to meet you when you get home.
Sure thing, buddy. Your Highness, your daughter is always the first to greet you when you get home. Don't worry about it, man. I'm actually going to write that he can't have anything of mine. It's a foolproof plan because hedgehogs can't read. Sir, he has the bottom carriage of a human man, and he's a hedgehog playing the bagpipes. I would be ready for anything at this point. I feel very confident that I can outwit the poky little puppy here.
Well, it's not the worst I've been called.
Here's the thing, dear followers. Not only was Hans a hedgehog that could read, he was a hedgehog who could hedge. His bets, that is. For not long later, a different king lost his way in the woods and ended up by the farm, and he was more open-minded. That's a risky thing to promise, Hans, my hedgehog. The first thing that could meet me when I arrive home might be my own daughter. Do you think it's fair of me to offer her to a stranger under duress?
You're welcome to hang out here as long as you want, but you're sure not getting home unless you make me that promise.
Huh. You're an adorable little dick, aren't you?
Well, my dad was a lot less nice than you.
This king agreed to the terms with no trickery. So the daughters of the first king and the second king had very different reactions. You will not believe the day I had, kid. I met this fugly little hedgehog man who was sitting on a rooster, playing the bagpipes, and then he blackmailed me into promising that I will let him marry you. I hope you didn't allow it. Of course I didn't. But even if you did promise me away, there is no way in hell I am going home with a freaky hedgehog man in 1,000 years. My dear, I was in a bit of a bind this afternoon. I got lost in the forest, and I met someone who was able to help me find my way back, but he made me promise him something in return, and I'm afraid that something was you. Great, so besides the threatening aura, what is my new husband like? Well, he's a hedgehog. A hedgehog? Just on top. What? He is very talented. Okay. He's an expert bagpipe player, and a very successful farmer. Are you having a stroke? No, I'm fine. It's just that weird a situation. I'm sorry, I know this isn't ideal. Well, it is what it is, and what it is I'm marrying a conniving hedgehog man who plays the world's loudest instrument. Now, Hans wasn't in a rush to claim either of these ladies. He kept breeding livestock until he was overwhelmed by the size of his drove. Then he sent a letter home to his dad.
Dear father, tell everyone in the village to slaughter their pigs, for I am bringing enough swine home to supply bacon and piglets for 3 generations. Love, Hans your hedgehog.
God damn it, I thought that kid was dead! Now I have to deal with them all over again?
I heard that.
Wow, you got home fast. You know, the last time you were here, you promised me you'd never come back.
I won't be here for long. I simply need to unload these pigs, and then I need to re-shoe my rooster. The old shoes have worn through, and once that's done, I'll go away and never return.
For real?
For real.
So the rooster was reshod, and Hans set off for the kingdom of the first Lost King to claim what he believed was rightfully his. That king was prepared for Hans. Listen up, men. If an individual arrives here, riding a rooster and playing the bagpipes, I need you to prevent that individual from entering the castle by whatever means necessary. Stop laughing! He's real! And he's half a hedgehog. Stop laughing! The guards were shocked to see that the king was not off his rocker, that the hedgehog man straddling a rooster and playing the bagpipes was real. They rushed at Hans with their bayonets and swords and spears, but Hans dug in his spurs, and the rooster flew up over their attackers beyond the castle walls. They flew right through the king's window, where the man and his daughter were hiding.
Give me your daughter, or you're both going to die.
You heard him, honey. Go with the hedgehog man. Wow, way to defend me, Dad. The princess was sent off in a carriage with Hans and his rooster. Now, up to this point, I'd say that despite Hans's unethical methods of finding a mate, you could argue that he is in a tough spot. He's an outcast. Maybe he felt like he had no choice. You know, he's earned some sympathy, you know? It turns out, however, that he is a vengeful little prick covered with sharp little pricks, as payback for the king and princess's attempted deceit. He assaulted the princess in the carriage. In a translation of the fairy tale by Jack Zipes, we read, "He took off her beautiful clothes and stuck her with his quills until she was covered with blood. Then he told her it's what she deserved for her dishonesty and threw her out of the carriage." And I know, the first king and his daughter are sneaky, and ableist if we are to consider Hans's hedgehogness to be an allegory for disability or disfigurement. But damn, Hans, baby, you had a whole other princess you just saved, just in case. You could have skipped the entire first family. I'm sure God would have served them justice sooner or later, because this is a Grimm fairy tale. How am I supposed to like you now, my sharp little dude? Having mauled his bad girlfriend, Hans, my scary hedgehog, went to the second king's palace, where he was much better received and much better behaved. Granted, the princess there was also nervous to receive her pointy husband, especially that night when it was time to go to, the bedchamber. But Hans was much kinder this time around.
I won't hurt you, dearest. I do have to attend to some curse-breaking first, though.
How can I help?
By pretending everything you're about to see is totally normal.
Hans called 4 courtiers into the room.
Men, build an enormous fire. I'm gonna pop over to bed, but before I get in, I'm gonna take off this hedgehog skin. It's gonna be pretty nasty stuff. Then you need to take the skin, throw it in the fire, and let it burn until it's nothing but ash.
The guards did as he asked, and the whole party was astonished to see that as the skin burned up, Hans became human, but he was charred black, like forgotten bread in a toaster turned up to the max. They called a doctor, who it turns out had the perfect ointment for the medical condition known as burnt to a crisp. By the time the doctor had administered the topical, Hans was a very handsome young man from head to toe. The couple spent a few years together enjoying their newly weddedness before Hans decided it was time to break his promise and visit his father again. "Hi, Dad. I have no son." "Are you sure about that?" "Well, I might have had one, but he's dead." "Is he, though?" "Well, I don't know, probably. He's a hedgehog-man. How long can a hedgehog-man survive in the world?" "Well, I have wonderful news for you, sir. Your son survived." "Oh, man. Dude, what the hell is wrong with you? Your son is me. And I happen to be a king now. Wow! Well, I don't suppose you'd forgive me and take me back with you to the palace for a life of luxury?" "I will, Father. I can't forgive a lady who tried to get out of a marriage to a blackmailing hedgehog man, but I can forgive the man who literally wished for a hedgehog, had one, then shoved him behind the stove for the first 8 years of his life, wishing he were dead. Oh, and bring Mom. Your mother is dead." "She is?" "Yeah, man, she gave birth to a hedgehog. Childbirth is difficult enough for women when they have smooth babies." "Huh. I guess I missed a lot hanging out behind that stove. My bad." With that, my tale is done, and now it's on the run. If you enjoyed my bizarre brand of storytelling, you can find a lot more of it here where you are watching this, as well as my book, Fucked Up Fairy Tales. You can also find more stories on my Patreon. I have over 150 more fairy tales for you to enjoy in podcast form, but I would really love it if you pick this up. So thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments what kind of animal romance you'd like to see me retell, and I'll see you for the next Fucked Up Fairy Tale.